own the fact that we realized after the fact that the way the invitations happened, that there's several other events happening tonight at other schools. And so we know that, and so we're gonna do our best to get the information to you and answer any questions that you guys have about our ninth grade. We've got an awesome program for ninth grade that we're really excited about, and an opportunity for our kids to really show leadership qualities and to really gain a lot from our program. All the teachers tonight will go through credits and anything from studio choices to what those credits look like, elective credits, as well as things that you can do over the summer if you're staying for ninth grade. So I hope everyone got a packet of information outside, and I'll turn it over to Meredith Welch.
Thank you. So welcome everybody. We appreciate your time. We have already met with a few folks. We've got a few more meetings to have with people because of the conflicts this evening. So you being here is really valued, and we greatly appreciate that. And so we are going to kind of move through things so that you all can be on your way, but also be available for questions if you have those. And at any point throughout this process of your deciding, you would like to have personal conversations with any of us about it, please feel free to reach out. We are more than willing to have a conference or to email back and forth or talk over the phone, whatever works for you. We are certainly ready and willing to do that. I'm Meredith Welch. I have been a part of the ninth grade team since 2008. 3 of my children have been through the ninth grade program. My youngest graduated just in May from Summit, and he's now a sophomore at Reynolds. I have a senior at Reynolds, and then I have a junior at Wake Forest. And then I also was a ninth grade graduate of Summit School. So I can appreciate this program on so many levels, and can look at it from the parent perspective, or the teacher perspective, or the alumni perspective. So anyway, we're going to get started. I want to introduce our ninth grade team of advisors. Or you all actually, I'd love for you to introduce yourselves if you would like. You can just, we're all fanned out, just feel free.
Okay, my name is Robin French. This is my 6th year on the ninth grade team, and I too had a son who went through the program. He is now a junior at Reagan High School, and I think we're
I'm Magdalena Perez Vicente. I know many of you from last year. This will be my first full year on the ninth grade team, and I previously taught 7th grade. Currently working with geometry students and algebra students.
And I'm Dan Hill. I joined the ninth grade team the same time as Magdalena, and I teach the honors English course.
So we're going to be speaking sort of throughout the evening. I teach biology, and we're going to give you a lot of information about the courses and our opportunities, and really kind of what the ninth grade team values. So we also have the opportunity to teach a course together that you'll hear more about in a moment. So we are a tight-knit bunch. We really enjoy being together. We spend a lot of time together, and we spend a lot of time with our students. So Mr. French is going to come and talk to you a little bit about how the advisory program that's in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade will turn into a course called Life Scale.
okay. So in the ninth grade year, we have a class that's scheduled. It's a half-credit course, which you will see more about when we talk about credits later. And the half-credit course meets every day of the week. We don't always use that. It's a half credit. It allows us, for example, to give students time to we have sort of crunch times coming along. But it also allows us some agility in terms of being able to schedule some of the events that are part of the Life Skill program. For instance, we have a leadership luncheons throughout the year. We met with, I'll let Dan talk about this a bit more, but we met with some leaders of service organizations and local organizations profits at one point. We go to Providence Restaurant and talk to the Chef Bacon there and his staff. He's a local entrepreneur who has founded the program Pride Community Kitchen that works to provide food to those who need it, but also provides jobs and training to those who are underserved in some sort of fashion by or underemployed, that's what I mean. So we do all sorts of luncheons, and that period allows us to do that. We also sort of take over the roles of sort of a traditional advisor. We will work with your advisees in a sort of traditional kind of way, but we also team teach a lot of things. So it's very often we're in the ninth grade lounge, which is our classroom for our life scale, and we often will do all sorts of activities in there, group activities. Of late, we've been working on service projects in terms of planning those for the rest of the school year in the larger community. We have a focus on building character as well, and we have 3 themes in our ninth grade year, and those are ones that we focus on a lot, except including others. One of the fun things for us about the ninth grade year, it's a reshuffling of students. It's a different mix of students than have been there before, because some students will leave for other schools. And as a consequence, it allows the class to sort of get to know each other in a different way, in a way they have not gotten to know one another previously. And that's very energizing because they're making discoveries just as we're making discoveries about them. Another one of our themes is time management. A lot goes on in the ninth grade year, and time management is a pretty critical sort of life skill, obviously, to have. We all struggle with that, I would imagine. But at the same time, it helps to have us sort of reminding them, helping students think through long-term processes like a term paper, like a speech, and kind of plan how they want to use their time and budget that time accordingly. And then lastly, leadership. There are various opportunities in ninth grade year for leadership from Executive Council, which is leading the assemblies that we have on Mondays and on Fridays. We also have opportunities, as I said, to lead service projects. Mr. Helm will tell you more about that in a minute. And then also we have community leadership opportunities, and this is a wide variety of ways that students can help out. Some, for example, I think we have one who is helping Ms. Wild this year with her pottery class. We have had others who work in the woodworking shop. We've had some who go into lower school classrooms in the morning and sort of help the teachers get the kids organized and directed and start on their day in those kinds of ways as well. So that's another way that our ninth graders, as part of their life skill course, but also this advisory program, and acquire some practical experience. I think I'm going to let Dan take over the service part because that's a major portion of the class as well.
So Mr. French did a lot of the heavy lifting there because a lot of the leadership opportunities are connected to service. And ninth grade really is a chance to see how those come together. So things like the community learning, community leadership opportunities might be morning jobs where students help out with lower school grades, help out teachers in other grades, or might help out with clubs, or really a variety of things that are open to the needs of the community and as teachers solicit requests, but also things that students are interested in helping out with. So there's a range of things that are prepared that the students are prepared to serve, but also that they can kind of create an event on their own a little bit. The other component is the service projects at large, and this is a chance for students to, again, students at Summit do service all the way through. They collect service hours, they participate in service projects, but ninth graders at Summit lead those projects. So as part of the life skill curriculum, students will get into groups. We'll take you through a range of brainstorming and collecting and gathering, where they might think about service organizations they already know from their time here. Think backwards about what kinds of needs those service organizations might meet. Think about other organizations that we might not have connected with yet. And eventually get into groups and take service projects and really lead the school's effort in meeting those needs. So the luncheon that Mr. French talked about was where we invited a lot of organizations that students were interested in working with to kind of sit down one-on-one and learn about things that they need, from collecting donations to sorting things to building bookshelves to a whole range of things that some of the students are prepared to do and lead on their own. And now, at this point in our year, students are really kind of kicking those off. So again, not just doing service, but really leading those projects. And things that we will do with them is give them an opportunity to practice writing emails, writing group emails, how to reach out and communicate with people about a project, to respond to those emails, writing even little things like writing thank you notes after luncheon, so that you're taking that step as you partner with organizations. And then as even a lead into what Magdalena is going to talk about, and the kind of the key trips, when we go to Costa Rica, one of the things that we do there is we take at least one day and do a service-oriented project. I think in the past, certainly this year, it was trail building at a nature park there, nature preserve, I guess you would call it. So there's a number of points, I think, interwoven through a lot of the things that we do that are that are focused on service, but again, our priority in a way is to try to give students opportunities to lead those efforts. One thing that's worth, I think, hitting on is that while there are organizations that we've connected with, students also have a chance to kind of think if they have their own ideas, their own experiences that we are not used to, they can build on those and we can reconnect and maybe even join new partnerships with organizations. And that's, I think, a part of what it means to lead that work too.
Kind of going from that, we have a very high level of intentionality. So we find that as people emerge from 8th grade, they're ready. They're ready to do things. And so we set a standard of, okay, so let's do it. So people come in, they're ready to be the leaders of the school. They're ready to step into these roles. And so here, and this is kind of a personal experience with my children, here they were able to be the leader. They were able to be in charge of a particular service project or to stand up in front of the assembly and be sort of a role model for the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. That's hard to find in a different school because generally the 9th graders are the ones sitting back and watching somebody else up on the stage or be the captain on the team or the president of the service club. So for me, that was something that I found as a parent, and my children would say this too, they found that to be one of the most valuable things because they were given the expectation and then they saw themselves in that role. They stepped up to be the leader versus kind of, waiting to see what other people are doing and where to go and what to participate in. What service club should I join in? It's not about the service, it's who's in the service club. Here, it's about the service. So I really appreciated that from that perspective. Next, a big part of what we do in 9th grade are 2 sort of experiential trips that would fall under the umbrella of Life Scale. So I'm going to let Magdalena, if you'd like to talk about High Rocks. Thank you.
So like Meredith said, we do have 2 big trips as part of the 9th grade experience. The first of which is Camp High Rocks, which is out in the mountains of North Carolina in Brevard. And the trip when we go to Camp High Rocks, it's intentionally planned within the first month of school. So I think it's the 3rd week we're in school this year, or this upcoming year for your student. And the reason why we plan High Rocks so early on in the year is that we've learned that a lot of students, they have previous relationships with classmates, and it provides them a space and an opportunity to rekindle some of those relationships. It allows them to bond closer with the class. And it truly is one of the first big major times where they go on with their class and they're given the opportunity to become leaders and to step up. While we're at High Rocks, you can see we engage in some high ropes, we do some kayaking, we do some rock climbing, some hiking. But not only do we take time to do that, we also take time to develop our leadership skills. So before students leave High Rocks, they're each given and tasked to lead a leadership, to lead an activity for a small group. And I know this might sound a little scary because you're working very closely with your peers, but leading them through an activity, a challenge, communicating with them, intervening when they sense some conflict. Those are important skills that you're going to need while you're working through the 9th grade year and beyond when you leave Summit. The date specifically for High Rocks is going to be September 8th through 11th. And this is truly a great experience to not only have fun, but also gear in, like Meredith said, students are go-getters at this point, to go get it and truly develop those leadership skills that they're ready to take on. And that's the first major trip we take is Camp High Rocks, and the second one is going to Costa Rica, which I'll let Jason lead on.
So we just got back from our 7th trip to Costa Rica with our 7th group and had an absolute fantastic time as we always do. And this sort of started out, again, 7 years ago, where we wanted to give the students an experience that would give them a little ways away from home, give them the opportunity for growth. And probably the most exciting thing for me, because I have a child in 9th grade now, is I've watched for 6 years these kids come in, they go on this trip, and they truly come back different. They mature, they see the world differently, and the experiences they have there lead to a lot of that. So having seen a number of children go through that, now for mine to experience that and seeing how she comes back sort of different has been very rewarding for me. The dates of the trip are on here. It's January 4th through the 13th. And that seems like an odd place to be sort of in the middle of the year, yet it works out really well because the 9th grade year is very busy start to finish. And so when we come back from holiday break, there's sort of that time before speeches get ramped up, exams are over, where we get to go kind of explore and have this experience. And in the country itself, it's the dry season, so we have less bugs, which is great. We take a tour from the entire country, from the Atlantic side up into the mountains down to the Pacific side, so they get to see a lot of that. And during that time, students are out of school in Costa Rica. So there's a lot of, there's not so many tourists, it's more vacationing Costa Ricans down there. And so we get to interact a lot culturally with the people that are down there. And because we've been going for so many years, it's almost like when we go back, we kind of have family down there. We've seen some of these people so many times, it's kind of like we didn't know from when we get down there. And the kids are kind of like, you know, who does that? And then as they get going on the trip, they're kind of like, oh, that's why. There will be multiple meetings about this trip moving forward. We have one in the fall. We have kind of a pre-trip meeting. But basically, I handle all the planning and stuff like that. We use Education First Tours. They're the ones that have done it for us. And we've been very happy with their services over the last 7 years. We'll be using them again next year. But if at any point you have any questions, please reach out to myself, any of the 9th grade team members. Again, Magdalene and Dan have experienced it firsthand. Robin and Meredith kind of been there a few times, done that. But please reach out with questions. It is an absolutely fantastic trip, and it's easily one of the signature experiences of that.
And I would like to say that a lot of the curriculum in biology is going to be seen firsthand in Costa Rica. So we study ecology in the classroom, and we do an ecology project based on places in Costa Rica, but then they get to go and actually see it and experience it. So they're not down there taking notes and writing papers, and you know, they're too busy to even enjoy the moment because they're frantic writing something. They've done the pre-work here, and so they're experiencing it and they're living it. And we were asking the kids the other day, on your way out, if you go down this hallway, outside of the 9th grade lounge is a bulletin board. And so each student picked a picture that they really liked or that represented the trip, one that we took. And it's interesting to see and to ask them why they chose that picture. But we have a cultural experience with kids from the schools there. We go into the protected areas and hear about, you know, the efforts Costa Rica has implemented in order to reduce the carbon footprint, all this stuff. But then they also just get to go and be with their friends and experience an amazing time. And we do, like it was mentioned earlier, performance service opportunity. We want to get into the course load and talk a little bit about the typical day that a 9th grader would have. So we have the required courses that are listed here on the left, and we're going to we can give a 2-sentence kind of blip about what it is that we teach. So all students will take what is on the left there. Notice that a lot of our classes are taught at the honors level. So once you get into high school, it matters in terms of quality points. If we're talking playing the game, it matters for quality points. So the opportunity to take courses at the honors level gives you a higher sort of quality point average. So if you're wondering what I'm talking about, in the 9th grade information packet here, on the back side of it, is information on grade point and quality point. So you can see that and kind of digest that a little bit. Some classes are not honors. For example, if you are in Spanish 1, it's not considered an honors course here or in public school. So it's just that. So we have those opportunities. Then you can get additional credits. Some are going to be based on your previous years of schoolwork. So if you were taking geometry in 9th grade, then you would get high school credit for Algebra 1. You get the credit, the grade doesn't transfer like for 8th grade. If you get an A in your 8th grade math, then it shows up as the credit but not the grade and filtering in your grade point averages. We also have some people who are not taking a foreign language, but they're taking study skills or they do a writing lab. And so you would earn a credit for that. So that would be in lieu of your foreign language. And then the foreign languages, so you can earn up to 2 credits again. Usually it's Spanish 1, and in all these cases we've had outliers, so we can work with people on different things here. But for example, my kids took Spanish here, and so Henry is my youngest, he's in 10th grade. He went from taking Spanish in 9th grade, and he's now in Spanish 4 as a 10th grader. I mean, they're very well prepared, and so he will next year take AP, which is kind of crazy to think about, but that's the case. And then I'm going to have some people come up in a minute after we do a blip about just our courses to let you know about our optional courses. So this truly means option. It doesn't mean it's the right thing for everybody. I think it really does depend on you as a student and what all's going on in your world, if you're really busy, or if you are going to put all your energy into your core courses to do the best you can. That is great, but they're just options in terms of building more credits or opportunities into your day at school. So we'll hear about those in a minute. I'll start with biology. My course is kind of a seminar course. We have a lot of discussion. We have labs. We cover everything, like I said, from ecology through organ systems and mammals. So we kind of cover everything. I love to teach what I teach because I'm interested in the subject anyway. I majored in biology at Davidson. And so it's something that I'm passionate about and something that I think what I really like is that there's something within the broad range that everybody, at least one person, can find interesting. Like if animals are your thing, then we can pursue that. If kind of the environmental stuff is your thing, we'll do that. So that's what I enjoy about my course.
I'll go next. I teach honors English again, and I'll just say I tend to use a workshop model, so direct explicit instruction, but lots of independence and group work allowed during the time. And things that we cover in literature are classic literary texts. So Odyssey and Romeo and Juliet are classic texts that I studied in 9th grade. I think there's room for engaging other classic American European texts too, but I think that's part of the focus. The way I think about honors, I don't think this is anomalous, a lot of people do, is in terms of pace and complexity. So students this year, when they were reading Romeo and Juliet, were also cycling through high interest young adult novels on their own that were related to Romeo and Juliet. So they were working in groups on their own projects, also gaining a functional knowledge of Romeo and Juliet at the same time. That kind of thing will repeat this spring. The big thing for English, and I won't take too much of your time, is the 9th grade speech. If you haven't heard about this, students, you certainly have. It's a chance for 9th graders on a topic of their choice to research, plan, prepare, and deliver a speech in front of, in the theater, in front of their family and friends and classmates and other students. That captures our attention for about 7.5 minutes. And the way I framed this, just as a way of explaining this to you without going into many details, the way I framed this year was with Kennedy's "We Go to the Moon" speech, because I think this is how it feels. He's standing up there and saying, even though we have to invent things to go to the moon, we can do it. Here's all that we have done so far. Here's what we can accomplish. We actually can go to the moon, even though we've never done it yet. Nobody has, and we will. And that's the 9th grade speech. It's saying, here's all that you've gotten so far. Here's all the things that you can do. Remind them of how they're prepared for this, and in truth, they are. And then giving them a chance just to do it and feel great about it. That's English.
Honors World History actually will help with the speech process in a lot of ways. Part of the first semester is students will tackle a topic of their own choosing, guided by me to the extent that, and this McNear and others, but to the extent that it has relevance, it has resources that they can find, those kinds of things. And then they will spend the better portion of the first semester in part exploring this over time through a series of very structured kinds of due dates, so that when it comes time in the second semester to tackle the speech, they have a body of information and knowledge, comfort level with those topics that will hopefully help make that process that Mr. Helm just talked about a little bit easier. In addition to that, we look at a fair number of current events. We kind of frame our approach to current events to develop skills that will help students make sense of the world. I'm not sure any of us can do that right now, but in a lot of ways, I think it's fun to engage that, right? And to hear the different kinds of perspectives and to challenge them to think about things in multiple kinds of ways. We also do a unit on Costa Rica prior to going to Costa Rica to give them some background on the nature of the country, all sorts of sort of demographic kinds of details, statistics about literacy rate, those sorts of things, the challenges that face Costa Rica, the opportunities Costa Rica has. We talk about ecotourism because as tourists in Costa Rica, we engage in that, but it also is a vehicle for their economy, a driver of their economy as well. So we engage with those kinds of topics in our Costa Rica unit. Second semester, we look at a lot of sort of more quote-unquote typical historical topics. We begin with the Renaissance. We live in the city of Venice, the city of arts and innovation, and we start with Renaissance Florence, which was definitely a city of art and innovation many years ago. And so we draw parallels between the Renaissance and the present moment in terms of thinking about some of the ideas there, thinking about the nature of innovation and those ideas as well. We continue into a suite that will connect a lot of dots and fill in probably a lot of sort of gaps we may have had from past years. We dig deep into certain kinds of topics. One of the ones we're going to be looking at before too long is examining Russia and sort of the challenges that Russia has historically faced and the challenges that we are facing in terms of our international policy with Russia as well. That's short history.
So, like I said, I teach honors geometry and honors algebra 2. I'll briefly touch on geometry first. So honors geometry is focused mainly on shapes and their sizes and figures and their properties. So we first start off exploring the properties of algebra. So a little bit of some algebra tied in from your previous Algebra 1 course. And then we go a little deeper, use the properties of algebra. How do they apply to circles? How do they apply to triangles? How can we then use the properties of algebra and triangles and apply those to squares and parallelograms and other quadrilaterals? And it's, by many students I've been told, it is very different from algebra insofar as in geometry you are so focused on your foundational knowledge of everything of what we study really does add on to itself. So yes, it's still math, but it's a different way of thinking about maths geometrically when we're proofwriting, when we're using the definitions and theorems and postulates throughout the class, and how do those apply to construction and right triangles and Pythagorean theorem. So honors geometry is, I don't know, like the kids say, it's math, but it's a different way of thinking of math. And some students are like, well, I worked really hard in algebra, but geometry, because it relies so much on your foundational knowledge, it just makes sense to me. And so some students are stars in geometry when they may have struggled in algebra. And that's something that I don't want to say I like hearing that, because I don't want to hear that students struggle in math. But I just like to hear that students are like, it's something they can relate to, and it makes sense, I think. Honors Algebra 2 is offered to students who have completed geometry when they get to 9th grade. And Honors Algebra 2 is focused on initially it's focused on some skills that you've studied in Algebra 1. So quadratics, radical expressions, rational expressions, slope, and some polynomials. And then it morphs more into a more, how do I say, I don't want to say it's intensive, but it looks more at the algebraic polynomials, and which are more complicated than quadratics. But polynomials and how those relate to logarithmic functions and how those can explore through mathematical models. So it is a step above Algebra 1 because it's a lot more intensive in the course. And it just builds upon how do radical functions relate to rational functions, and just the interrelationship between a lot of the concepts that students have studied in their previous math courses.
So I'm going to let Mr. Felton and either or Mr. Trentio come up and speak to some of our optional courses, I just want to point out again that these courses are taught here. We have small class sizes. We have the ability to talk with students inside, outside of class. We have study halls where people can get help. We're here to support these kids. We're here to help them figure out how they best study. And so another thing my children would say was that they valued that as part of their ninth grade year, that their relationship with their teachers really mattered, and that they felt that their teachers cared about their performance and about them as people. So why don't y'all come on up and you can do your course?
So, Earth and Environmental Science has gone through a number of different iterations over the years. We took it over about 4 or 5 years ago and sort of modified the course and changed it to where it was much more, I'll use the term summatized, where it was, wasn't so robotic, it wasn't so just about reading and sort of hunting for things on the internet. We made it a course where kids are going to learn stuff, they're going to have fun learning, and we made it for a course that's going to take place over the summer. So probably the first thing to note is, again, as Ernie said, this is optional. While every student can and understand the information, it's not from a difficulty standpoint, there is a time management piece. This does have a deadline of August 14th, and on that day, all coursework needs to be done. So we have a wide range of students. We have some students that from the moment they leave here on graduation day, they are serving for the remainder of the summer, and they don't have time for this. We understand that. There are others that are going to pool each day, have some free time, whatever. That may be for them, but it is going to be about setting aside time each day to work on this course to get it done by the deadline. It is a full credit course, so it has to meet a 120-hour requirement for that. There are 6 major units that from start to finish take an average of about 70 hours of work to complete. Usually what we tell them is they'll start that first unit, and about how long it takes for that unit is about how long it's going to take for the remaining 5. At the end, there'll be some experiential week, which Mr. Prashanti will talk about in a second, where they get another about 40 hours worth of work with us doing a number of activities off campus and on campus. As far as the course goes, again, there's 2 handouts on there that gives you a lot of the information. The big thing I need to mention is that the experiential week is a must be met. We need to have the students there for that week in order to get to that 120 hours. So we know students may be gone for a month during the summer. They could probably still do the coursework if they can manage that amount of time. But if they are not going to be there for that August 10th to the 14th week, they cannot do the course because there's no way to make up that amount of time. So if they're going to be here and they feel like they can manage that amount of time over the course of the summer, then sign up. It does offer an Honors Environmental Science credit, which for the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools satisfies a requirement. That said, we do have a number of students who take this that then take AP Environmental Science, in which case this, instead of being an Earth Science credit, just follows as an elective, but still retains that honors level quality point. So even though they may take another one and they want to take AP, that's fine. This still does kind of have that little advantage of being that honors quality point there.
So during the experiential week, we intentionally want them to make connections to what they've done in the course over the summer. And we try to make it like any of the summer kind of adventure, outdoor experiences, but with a learning component. So one day we'll go to Stone Mountain State Park. It really has a focus on water. And we'll get in the rivers at Stone Mountain and we'll test the water quality, and we'll flip rocks and look for macroinvertebrates to test the water quality. We'll go to Todd, North Carolina, and do a kayaking trip on the New River. And then on one of the days last year, we had the opportunity, we went to devotion to the Huff's family farm, and there were some naturalists from the state that came and met us there because they wanted to test the water. They wanted to see if there was worm disease in the trout in that stream. And so they brought 3 naturalists out, and they did an electroshock, and our kids got to follow behind, and everyone had waders on. They were scooping fish out and throwing them in buckets, and we put them in a big cooler and had a chance to like catalog all these fish. And then that data was actually used by the state, so that they got to be like some real citizen scientists. It was pretty cool. We spent a day on campus doing a lab. We'll go bring it closer to home. We'll go over to the Quarry Park, and we'll take a look over there and see how man-made impacts on the environment. And then they have the final course, like exam and a persuasive presentation. And they can do it on whatever they thought was interesting from the course. One of the things that I found is interesting is that so many of the kids that go through the course and then eventually carry that topic into their 9th grade speech because they become passionate about it, which is pretty cool.
So every single 8th grader that I have will have access to this course starting in April. And the reason we do that is we want everybody to see what the course looks like. We have students who know they will not be returning to Summit at that point, and so they never look at the course, and that is not a problem whatsoever. We have others who know they're staying and know they've got a busy summer and want to get a little bit of a head start. So they'll get some of that work done early because they know they've got to manage that time later in the summer, and they'll begin right away. On May 22nd, there'll be registration that goes out, and I will communicate all the stuff we've said via email about the course. But basically at that point, you need to choose if you want to take the course or not. If you don't take the course, it simply falls away. If you do want to take the course, that's when we'll, the tuition and fees and things like that will kick in. But I'll give you more information to the 8th grade parents starting in April as we get geared up for this. We'll talk about it in class, accessing and stuff like that. And I would also encourage parents or students to reach out to the students that took it this past summer. Every year that we've done this, we have the kids from the year before come back and ask if they can do that experiential week again, because they have so much fun doing all that stuff. And again, just being able to interact with the state and kind of see sort of the stuff that we're talking about and how much it does matter was pretty special. So if you have questions, please reach out to either one of us at any point. And thank you.
Good.
How many students have you had in that summer course?
We've had, I think, as many as 21 year, and probably, usually it averages around 10 to 15 somewhere in there. It just depends on what the summers look like for those students.
Thank you.
And I've had, you know, some, one of my children take it, and I've had some who were busy and had stuff they were doing and they didn't. So, like they said, it truly is individualized according to what you have going on, or to how much prodding you want to do for your child over the summer, that type of thing, because that's going to lead into online help. So, Kathy, is everybody but 1 or 2 9th graders?
Everybody but 3.
Okay, so all but 3 of our current 9th graders decided to sign up for the online help. It is an opportunity to take, this one is purely online, but you can earn a half a credit. So when Jason was talking about the credit for the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools, you have to have a credit in that division for graduation. You also have to have a help for graduation. So we have the opportunity for our students to sign up here. It's a BYU course. It's all handled through Kathy Culp, and we are grateful to her. She kind of keeps the kids moving. She sets timelines and has check-ins and things like that. The information is in your online health sheet. It goes over the different topics that are covered. There are some essays involved, there are quizzes involved that are graded, and then there's a final exam of 70 multiple choice questions. And so this opens in May as well, and so it's great if you want to kind of get started. If you opt to take it, again, optional. But you have the opportunity, it's self-paced, to get it, you know, knocked out. So we want it knocked out generally by the spring, so that it's nice to do it even before speeches, so that people can just, you know, move on. We definitely have it completed before, you know, we get into the first week in May-ish, so that they can then focus on exams for their other courses. So it's a great opportunity, again, optional if it works for your family. We also have the opportunity to earn 1 credit for physical education. It would be like 2 half-credit courses. That information is provided on a sheet as well. So you can participate in order to get this credit. You can participate in 2 of the 3 sports seasons. If you are, you know, are on a team, or if you're on Lifetime or whatever. You could participate in 130 hours of outside of school sports. So some people, you know, play soccer around, you know, the year, or swimmers or whatever. Or you can do you can participate in Summit Sports for 1 of the 3 seasons and at least 65 hours of non-Summit sports. We also offer a conditioning class that is handled through Summit that can help fulfill a half-credit course. So it's really nice to get that under your belt too, so that you don't need to get PE in the next school. and it's easy. A lot of our people are very involved anyway in our sports, and so that is all handled through Mr. Shaw. All right, this is one of my favorite parts. You all are going to get to hear from our fabulous studio teachers. So in 9th grade, our students focus on one studio. They get to choose which one they would like to take, and we have a lot of great offerings. And so they will participate in this daily. So studio teachers, if y'all don't mind coming up, we can let you all talk about your things, and then we'll do the next thing.
Hi all, I'm Kiana Beecham here, teacher. And I'm Mrs. Wild. I am one of the visual arts teachers.
I'm Chris Cole, I'm a teacher of Steve, and also division of French.
So this is my slide, and if you've been around, you've actually started taking this class this year in 8th grade. It would be a little bit different than the one you're taking now, but you would still get to work with me, with Mr. Tucker, and with Mr. Calhoun. So if you get to take this class, you get to have 3 teachers. You still get to do photography, what I offer in my room, and what Mr. Calhoun offers in his room. So there's a lot of opportunities for personal expression. The difference is you're going to get a grade in this class. So I think that's one thing people are like, oh my gosh, I'm getting graded. But we're really wanting to work with you. We want to make sure that you have a portfolio at the end. So that's why we're saying a digital portfolio. We have never had a child that didn't have something great at the end. So as you're leaving today, look on the wall by the theater. Mr. Tucker and Mr. Calhoun have things hanging in front of the Leno Hopkins Theater. And if you go out by Linda Shelton's room across from the Calliope, that case has all of the 9th grade work from ceramics that they've done. And I have to say the class we have right now is really talented, but we do things like we're gonna do some firing in the Raku kiln. We give students assignments that we know will have really good outcomes, so that we're giving them deeper things to work on. We're giving them more time to work on things because they're with us every day. It just gives them more time and a lot of opportunity to have self-expression and really great pieces to put in a portfolio. And if you have questions, come talk to any of us about visual arts.
So I think you're hearing this theme of sort of this individualized instruction and opportunities, and I think that's so true in all of these studios. It's so rare to find an opportunity where a student in 9th grade can be in a play and play the lead characters or create their own individualized portfolio. I think that's going to be something we see across all of these. The 9th grade theater arts class, we do 2 productions. In the fall, we do a musical and one act in the spring. These are really transformative opportunities for these kids. Kind of the same idea of this is a big goal to perform as a lead in a musical as a 9th grader. And year after year, I see kids come into themselves and really grow on stage as performers and just as confident people. This class does have an after-school requirement. It's really essential that if you sign up for this class, you're willing and able to come to these. They are in between sports seasons, so if you're playing summit sports, this is still totally possible. If you're playing outside of summit sports, it's something you want to consider. This is a time where we're working on a collaborative art, so we really need to come together as a team to put these pieces together. So just a consideration. We also talk about acting, playwriting, design, just lots of opportunities to kind of explore theater as a craft. We also have chorus. The Chorus 1 class really lets you come into your own as a singer. We're working with lots of different varieties of music, really exploring the full circuit of being a singer. You have opportunities in this class to collaborate with the band, which I'll talk about next, and also in the musical. So this is kind of an interesting look at chorus where you're growing as a performer, you're prepared to move into a more advanced program as you move on from Summit, but also still getting to participate in a lot of other options. Lots of interesting opportunities like going to state chorus, and just kind of, I think, deepening your understanding of music as a whole. And last but not least, band. The band class in 9th grade closer as a group. Again, the idea that as a ninth grader you can go every day to class and like form a band, okay, it's really an exciting opportunity. They're amping up their understanding of music theory in this class, kind of diving a little bit deeper. And because it's a smaller class size, they can work a little bit more on fine-tuning your interest in whatever your musical instrument may be, or exploring a new one. Many performance opportunities, and of course in band both kind of the idea that you could be a director or a leader within your group, kind of finding your own voice in creating as well.
So STEAM class is my favorite part of my day. One of the reasons it's my favorite is because it's where I get to work in a peer relationship with Mr. Harberger and our students, learning together, creating, and solving problems. And the handout that you got in your packet and what you see behind me is kind of an overview of what we do in this class. But it's a class where there's a lot of individuality. Students pick their own projects. They can work in small groups or as individuals. Actually, I'm going to talk about a picture here. I didn't remember that, put that in here. This is a student this year. One of his projects is to create a wakeboard. He's learning how to work with prototyping using design thinking. And he's, in that picture, he's taking a foam board, covering it in fiberglass and working with epoxy resin, which sounds really cool. And I wish I could have done something like that when I was in ninth grade. But the students come in, they write a proposal for their projects. The proposal is converted into a journal, which then becomes a segment or part of their portfolio, which they can take on with them and use their work to showcase later on. It's a great class, it's a lot of fun. Every day goes rather quickly. Not a lot of time outside the class unless the student decides to do some extra research. Okay, I'm on again. So Innovation Entrepreneurship is a new class this year. It is a great, another great opportunity for our students. This year we have one student in that class. It's really a great way for us to get started. This particular student took a service learning opportunity that we created a couple years ago in ninth grade. And this year he has learned what it's like to create your own nonprofit business, 501c3, out of this project. So it's the Bike Donation Project. To date, they've donated over 250 bikes to the community in Winston-Salem that have been brought in, repaired, and worked on. But more importantly, what he's learned is what does it take to make a business? What does it take to file with the state, the IRS, create a website, social media, write a thank you letter, communicate with members among the community, various service organizations, represent an organization as a director of operations. So it's a really cool project. This may look totally different for the next student that takes this class. They may come up with an idea of a business they want to start. We will help them research and do that by meeting with community leaders, entrepreneurs in the community, people on Summit faculty that have special skills in these areas, and they'll learn how to create their own business or enterprise from nothing. If you have any questions about either of these last two, feel free to email me or Mr. Harberger, and we'll be glad to help you with that. This class is taught by Dr. Ebeling, Jeff Turner, and myself. The previous class team is Mr. Harberger.
Oh, one thing I forgot to mention with visual arts, which I'm really excited about, is we're going to have a show for our ninth graders this year at SEGA. So that's really new for us, and I'm hoping we'll be able to continue that as years go on. So if you choose visual arts, you'll get to say you were in a show in an actual, like, North Carolina museum. How cool is that? Thank you.
So I just want to point out one thing before Dr. Ebeling closes for us. We have such an amazing place at Summit because not only is it our team of 4, but it's our team of studio teachers. It's our learning support specialists. It's our head of the upper school. It's our guidance counselor. It's people in different divisions who collaborate with us. We have a philanthropy project that Jeannie Sears works on with our kids, where we were able to give away $2,500 as a grant to a nonprofit. People are applying for that grant to Summit, and the ninth graders are getting to choose how that money is spent. I mean, it's a lot of life opportunities, which I find to be amazing, and it's our whole team of people who are working with these kids. This is last year's graduating class. The redhead is mine. And anyway, I will hang out after we close if anybody has questions. We want to be very mindful of the time. We know a lot of you have been here all day, students and some parents. A lot of you have been at work or wherever. It's time to go. So we thank you for coming, but Dr. Ebling, if you would like to close for us, I'd appreciate it.
Well, I'd like to thank all the teachers for doing their gig tonight, giving you a window in, and then thank everybody who came. And so here's what I would say, it's sort of reiterating what you just heard, and that is this experience, this gig is different. It's unique. People throw that term around. The reality is this experience for these kids is unique. In this town, as best I can tell, pretty much anywhere. And I've never heard that metaphor of Kennedy's speech on going to the moon before, but applied to this experience and where these kids are in their lives, I think it works. And I think that notion that these kids are ready is absolutely true. And I think the notion that they're ready to do something they haven't done before is absolutely true. And so I think programmatically, this experience is fundamentally different from what has come before and what will come after and what goes on at that same time with their peers in other schools. And I think at the end of the day, the biggest difference in all of this is what is true throughout the summit. It's just the expression of it at this grade level looks different, and that is relationships. And so I would encourage the students who are in here and who are thinking about it to talk to other students who have graduated, who are in ninth grade, because the relationships you develop with other students and that you develop with adults, you are ready for. You might not be able to predict it right now in eighth grade, but those relationships are different. And what I see are kids in eighth grade who become young adults in ninth grade, who develop lifelong relationships, not only with their peers, but with the teachers. And I've seen that happen. I've seen it happen with my own children. So if there's anything the teachers or I can do to support you in this, any step along the way, we'd love to do that. We're really grateful to you.
Thank you. So if anybody has questions, we'll be down front. Feel free to talk to people, feel free to leave, whatever you would like. Again, thank you all so much for spending the last hour